start at 7 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll give it 2 minutes here and then we'll get going. Okay, let's see, it's almost 7 o'clock here, so let's get started. Okay, so we've got the agenda in front of us. Any additions to the agenda? If not, motion to accept as presented. Thanks, Councillor Busk. Any discussion? Call the question, those in favor. My internet's working. I see everyone's hands. We're good. Okay, so let's jump right into CAO update, Mr. Lundy.
Your Worship, the only additional thing I would note is Thursday, Christopher will be testing the siren. So, and it will be right around noon hour. And other than that, you have the activity, and I would try to answer any questions. We have a couple other directors here that can answer those areas if you have questions.
Okay, Councillor Brandel.
I have a couple questions, and they're both about garbage, actually. Now that the weather is nice, we've been doing a lot of walking around the trails and around town. And I noticed that there's a lot of businesses that have a lot of garbage in their parking lot and front entrance. Is there anything in our bylaw that says that we can enforce that they clean it up, or even just send them a friendly little letter?
We can definitely send them a letter asking them to be a good corporate citizen. And, but I don't believe we have much teeth in our bylaws.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. I mean, it has gotten better since we did cleanup week, but there still are a couple that aren't very friendly looking, so. And then the other one was about the recycle center. Because the wind blows off the lake so badly right there, that whole area, that fence is always covered in trash bags and garbage. And just wondering if there was any appetite from council to move the recycling center to the old daycare spot and fence it in there.
Okay. I would,
That one.
I would first say that, obviously there's costs and stuff that go with that. Additionally, there, you're still going to get wind, and garbage is probably going to blow up against there. So if we're going to spend that kind of money to move it, we're probably better to just spend some money to get someone to clean it up. I know in the past too, like we'd have talked to operations, but I know in the past too, we've had operations has went over and done some cleaning. And I think even at some times we've made some donations to groups and had them go clean it. So maybe it's just a time to peek at that one. Councillor Busk.
I know, talking with Calvin, they've been cleaning it. It was clean today. It looks very good today. Especially on the weekends, everybody's doing their spring cleaning. It's just getting hammered hard. People are just dropping off boxes. They're not even making the effort to throw them in the dumpster. One of Calvin's guys had talked to somebody the other day, and he's like, "Oh, the town will clean it up." That was his answer, right? So it doesn't matter where we're at situated. I think we're still going to have that level of disrespect and stuff anyways, right?
Hey, Councillor Brandel.
It's just that spot in particular is so windy. We were driving by the other day and we watched the wind blow the lid right up, and then garbage and stuff was flying out of it. So, even when people actually put it in the bin, it doesn't stay there because of the wind. So that was my only thing, was just because that location is so windy.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
Councillor Brandel, are you referring to the area specifically inside the enclosure, or is it blowing outside of the enclosure?
Both.
Okay. Okay, well, if it's recently been cleaned, let's go take a look at that. And Gordon, maybe if you could just check in with operations and just for next meeting, how often do they go out and clean it up?
They clean on a weekly basis, and it's usually Monday morning after the Sunday episodes. And I'm aware of that. I don't know how more often they clean it during the week.
What are the Sunday episodes? Are they worth going down and watching or no?
Usually I visit it on Saturdays, and it's quite neat and clean.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let's keep an eye on it there, unless Councillor Brandel, I guess we could entertain a motion to go research the cost of moving it if that's what you want.
Yeah, just curious if there was any appetite from council to even entertain the motion before we get there.
They're pretty quiet. So why don't we start with some cleanup there and whatever else and see how it goes.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. Other questions, comments from council? Councillor McGregor.
So I saw you took a picture and were quite excited for the road to get fixed by Tim Hortons. Is that the end of the job they're gonna do, the quarter job or half? Oh, I was in a rainer in there. I forgot I was on YouTube. Or a half slack job that they did, or do they have an appetite to come back? And I like things finished jobs.
I haven't been down there, Councillor McGregor, since I saw them initially just start. So I can have Calvin report back as to what the extent is going to be.
My understanding at this point is that they are 2% complete.
Yeah.
And with about 11 more B trains worth of pavement, we could probably fix up that intersection. Their intention is this summer to redo that whole intersection, to mill and overlay, is my understanding, along with some other kilometers. I did actually reach out to our regional director that looks after transportation for the province for this region, and he's actually getting me a little bit more detailed list that we could share. The MLA's office was encouraging him to get that list as well, and so the MLA's office said that I thought it was kind of silly that they were doing some of the patching if they're going to rip it all up anyway, but they were concentrating on some of those more significant ones is what I understood. That being said, it's made a slight difference to your spilling of Tim Hortons coffee as you go across the intersection, but I think likely as a community, we're going to have to bear with it until the summer when they kind of redo the whole thing. But I am excited to understand that intersection, which is quite significant, significantly falling apart, is that that piece will be all redone, mill and overlay. So like I said, once I get that information from transportation, I'll get Chris to put it on our website stuff and share it across, so it's very clear what's getting done and what isn't. Don't know if that helps, but that's the information I got today. Other questions? As I see none, let's jump into reports. Actually, Gordon, I guess Calvin isn't on this call, but been having a lot of questions from some of the residents about what some of our staff is doing. I know some of our MRC staff have come over and they've helped out, doing a couple of things or helping out operations. Lots of people asking, why are we painting these signs? I'm just wondering if you can elaborate on some of the stuff that's happening, what we're doing, why we're doing it. Don't mean to throw you on the spot, but I think
the 6 employees from community services transferred over to Public Works, and they are being assigned jobs on a daily basis by Calvin, our dean. The 2 receptionist employees are repainting a number of our hydrants, and that's what they've been doing a lot of. As to the other 4, I don't know what has been assigned to them to do, but it's assisting the overall crew and trying to get some of the necessary work done before they get transferred back. I would assume they're going to be transferred back after the long weekend to parks, and so they'll be picking garbage and starting on their lawn work. So.
Okay. Let's jump into reports. We'll start with the Highway 88 pedestrian crossing.
Further to council's direction to send something off to the deputy minister, I went and wanted to familiarize myself with the files. Came across a set of notes from 217 where Paula Campbell met with 3 of our senior staff, Brian, Lori, and Cal. And at that meeting, she stated that if there is overhead signals were ever to be put at Highway 88 and Caribou, that the town would be responsible. Subsequent, I understand that council had a meeting with the former Minister of Transportation, but in the letter that came back, all he said was they would supply signs and markings on the highway, no overhead signals. So I had Cush contact Associated just to get a price as to what was requested from transportation earlier. So that's my suggestion to council, that because if we just send a letter now, they are just going to reply, carry out the study, in my opinion. So the cost of the study would be $32,500, and that would include the requirements that the transportation has stipulated, that the work has to comply with the highway geometric design guide, and so that's what Associated would do. We're recommending that we proceed with that and use the funds that have been allocated in that capital category. and then approach transportation on a cost share basis when we have to do some pedestrian lighting across that highway.
Okay, I got some comments, but Councillor Ferguson wants to play first.
Just a question for the rest of council. If I remember correctly, the discussion of the day was transportation said if we build proper access up to 88, that they would cover the overhead, the lighting. Is that not correct? Signals?
That's what they've been telling us the last 18 to 24 months. Yes. And that's why one of the concerns I would have, Gordon, is that if you're looking at some stuff that Paula Campbell gave us in 2017, you know, two things I think we should do: pick up the phone and reiterate and make sure that that's still something they're wanting us to do. If it is, then fine, we don't have to wait for a letter, but at least a phone call, we could figure out for sure that we have to spend the $32,000. The other piece is I would have a conversation with the Sawridge, because part of this is their intersection as well, and they were really ones that were championing our support for this. And so, you know, before I spent $32,000, I'd want to know, is this still something that's a priority to them? And if it is, are they willing to cost share on some of the costs as well? That's my initial thoughts. Other thoughts? I see one person nodding. I see the rest of them quiet. I see another nodding. I see a thumb. So likely, could we do that? Could we go talk to Paula to start out with? Get some information and make sure that that's what we have to do, and then have a conversation with the Sawridge. Give Mike a call over there and just bring him up to speed on where things are at and see how they want to proceed. Because it really should be something that's joint, and then we'll be actually able to move this forward.
Okay, I will follow up.
Okay, so do you need a motion to something to that degree, or how do you want to deal with that, Gordon?
It's best that you put it into a motion.
Okay, so I make a motion that we contact transportation to clarify if a geometric design guide is needed, as well as coordinate a meeting with the Sawridge First Nation to discuss a path forward. That makes sense?
Yes.
Joanna, I'm assuming is good. Any discussion on that motion? Call the question, those in favor. See hands, and that's carried. Okay, Zamboni replacement, Mr. Roth. You're still muted, Gary.
There we go. Sorry about that. Just trying to get it off on mute. Good evening. I'm here to request that council approve the purchase of a new Zamboni and also do it as a single source purchase. Current Zamboni is a 2010 ice resurfacer. It's nearing the end of its lifespan, and we know that the last couple of years is costing us more and more money to keep it operational. It was approved as part of the capital plan. Of course, ice resurfacers are essential pieces of equipment needed to be used on a daily basis at the multi-rec center. If it fails, then we need to either get it going, find a replacement, or not be able to sell safe ice. Worst case scenario would have to be shipped out to the dealership in Edmonton for any major repairs. In Canada, there's really two main manufacturers of ice resurfacers. There's a few other fringe type manufacturers, but Zamboni and Olympia are the primary machine manufacturers. We have a solid history with reliable machines from Zamboni, as well as from the distributor just outside of Edmonton. The other manufacturer, Olympia, the nearest dealership is in Cochrane, which makes service a bit more of a challenge. We are also proposing to purchase an electric ice surfacer this time. Other municipalities, primarily the city of Red Deer and city of Medicine Hat, have had great success with Zamboni modeled or branded electric ice resurfacers. And our information is that every year as the new models come out, they get more reliable and get better. The advantage of electric is with the new lithium batteries has been certainly a big step forward. The reason for the electric ice surfacer is that they're about the same price as dual fuel, meaning can run on natural gas, but we do get a rebate back of up to 30% or $50,000, whichever is greater, on the purchase if we do go with electric. Maintenance costs are slightly less for the electric. We do know that at one point during its life cycle, we will need to replace the batteries, which are about $10,000 expense, but there's no less maintenance in terms of oil changes and a number of other pieces along the way. So when other municipalities, such as the city of Red Deer, has priced it out, they actually felt that it's a comparable bang for your buck when you look at electric over natural gas. The $50,000 rebate certainly makes it within reason. We had currently budgeted $186,000 for this. Quote came in at $164,730. We will need to spend a little bit of that money to do some electrical work within the MRC to accommodate the charging station. But then if you take the $50,000 rebate off, the total net cost would be about $120,000, certainly well under budget. And so it's our recommendation that we move forward with purchasing it as a sole source. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councillor Busk.
What is the battery life? Do you get done a sheet of ice and it has to go right back on the charger, or do you have charge it once a day? What's the life, like the charge cycle of this?
Yeah, so what other communities are doing is they're charging it on a continual basis whenever it's not being used. Certainly manufacturer says there's plenty of charge to be able to do more than one sheet of ice at a time. So if we have to do back-to-back floods, that should not be a problem. That's within spec. The challenge is just that if you are, at some point, you can't just keep doing back-to-back floods all day long, but that's typically not how an arena works. There's always half hour to an hour in between floods, which brings it right back up. It brings your charge right back up.
Okay, Councillor Brownell.
What kind of fuel is our current Zamboni?
It's on natural gas.
Oh, it is, eh? Oh, okay. So that will be cheaper in the long run with the extra electricity, even with the new charging station. That won't affect our power bill at the MRC too much?
It certainly will affect our power bill, but when we factored into it, yeah, I mean, we were relying on information from other municipalities that said they didn't see their electrical bills go up drastically. There is it is going to cost us more power for sure. And we certainly have some other energy efficiency kind of things that we're looking at in the future in terms of the MRC, in terms of electricity as well, to keep their power bills within reason.
Okay, but you also said there's going to be some cost savings on maintenance and oil changes and so on and so forth.
Exactly. Right? So you don't have to do oil changes on it. That's the one big bonus is that for the most part, there's no engine oil to change. There's some hydraulic fluids. And most of the machine is operated through either hydraulics or electrical actuators. So it doesn't have the same degree of maintenance, which still requires maintenance, obviously, but it's no oil changes and that type of thing. Like I said, other municipalities, we've been relying on information from the cities, and they certainly have had great success with these machines.
Okay, Councillor Ferguson.
What will we be doing with the existing machine? Trading it in, or what?
So yeah, I understand from Cal that typically we auction it off at some point. I think what our intent would be is to try to overlap it slightly and to make sure that this one's up and running, and as all the staff are trained on it and it's working well before we get rid of the old one.
Okay.
One last question.
Yeah, give her.
So that rebate too, is that something that is directly attached to the purchase of the Zamboni, or is it a rebate that can be used or anything across the municipality. I guess what I'm asking is if we're using it here, are we taking it from somewhere else?
No. So first off, it's only for electric vehicles and electric equipment. So you have to purchase an electric vehicle or electric piece of equipment. Municipalities can apply more than once for the same rebate. The challenge is though I'm not aware of any plans to purchase any electric vehicles or any other electric equipment as well.
Okay. My initial thoughts are, gee, I don't even know if we're going to be able to use ice this fall. However, this thing is older where it's costing us more money. Zambonis aren't something sitting down in a dealership there that there's 10 sitting on the lot we can go get easily. And so, the world will return to normal, and, $50,000 savings is a nice touch as well. So I'm in favor of moving ahead. Other thoughts? Councillor Brandel?
I was just going to make a motion.
You're welcome to do that.
The council approved the single source purchase of the Zamboni 450 lithium ion ice resurfacer from Industrial Machine Inc. at a cost of $164,730 plus GST. Any
discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Gary. Okay, Mr. Becker and our Mr. Pavic are going to talk about implementation of a fire ban bylaw on page 17 of our package.
That's right. Can you guys hear me okay, first of all?
Fantastically.
Cool. Yes, that's correct, Your Worship and Council. We're looking to propose a fire ban bylaw, and attached to the report is the bylaw itself. There is not a whole lot of substance to this bylaw. It's relatively smaller compared to what we have with other bylaws. But to discuss this one here a little bit and give you some background, if the municipality right now, for example, if Alex decides to impose a fire ban within the community at his discretion, we can certainly do that, but there's no legislation that allows us to do that, first of all. And second of all, if we wish to enforce it, we don't have the legislation in place right now to enforce it. Therefore, anyone who chooses to have a fire, once the fire chief imposes this ban, it may start getting complaints of people still having backyard fires or operating off-highway vehicles or even discharging fireworks. Essentially, there's really nothing that we can do in terms of enforcement. We can't stop them because we don't have the legislation there to enforce it with. And so that is the purpose of the bylaw before you today. Additionally, I'll say that this bylaw was reviewed by the fire chief. It was reviewed by Leah Lovequist, and she bounced the bylaw off a colleague within the Alberta government. They brought back some recommendations which we've implemented within the bylaw itself. And so since those implementations have been incorporated, we're satisfied that the bylaw will certainly meet the needs of the community if we choose to impose any fire bans in the near future. Okay. That's pretty much it.
So in the past there, when I had those fires in my backyard and the fire ban was on, the fire truck showed up, I could have just told those guys to go pound sand, eh?
Correct. I didn't want to say it, but you did.
Good to know. Yep. Okay, so I had one comment about this, but any questions from council? Looks pretty quiet. Just on 4.4 on page 20 of our package, top of 21 kind of carries over.
Okay.
So it basically talks about the fact that you have the ability to restrict, so first off, I have no issue with the concept of this. And so, but it basically breaks down that you could have different almost variations of a fire ban. And so, you could have that you're excluding backyard fires, which I get. But then it talks about we could be prohibiting propane or natural gas powered appliances, barbecue charcoal briquettes, And so like, you know, the only reason I bring it up as an issue is because we kind of trained the world here now in the world of fire bans that, you know, if there's a fire ban on, you can still have a propane fire pit or something going. But in this, it sounds like we would have different levels. So I guess how we're going to communicate that, and what's the difference between a propane fire pit and your barbecue? So then do we say you can't barbecue? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so it's going to come down, I think, to, well, a couple of factors. One, I think we'd have to look at what the province is doing and what they've declared for one. We'll have to look at, and I'm no expert, so perhaps Alex could comment a little bit more on what his thoughts are in terms of how he's going to assess and make that judgment when he's going to impose such a restriction. But perhaps in the fire world, it would be deemed necessary to ban propane. We just want to have the option there in the event that things are very extreme and very, very dry, that at least the fire chief is equipped with the option of banning those if he desires. And I know after hearing from the fire chief that obviously I believe there's going to be some communication between, this is not going to be a quick decision. There might be some communication with council prior to this. Perhaps Alex could speak a little bit more to that, but I believe after chatting with Gary and Alex that this is going to be a decision that's going to require council to, well, some consultation with council on that.
So can I just jump in before Alex? This was also wording that the provincial forestry people had suggested to be in alignment with their legislation. So that's where some of this wording came from. It was very specifically brought to us from their group, just to make sure that their legislation or their regulations and ours are very similar and similarly worded.
And if they're similarly worded and similarly enacted, I got no issue. I was just worried that this kind of felt like we were going down even a different road than the province typically does. That being said, Alex, anything you want to throw in there or no?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
I would just say, I think we're looking at about a 3-stage. So a restriction, we would limit the amount of industrial sites that could burn their garbage. Right now we have a permitting system. Stage 2 would be the backyard fires. And then stage 3 would be the total ban, which would include the propane and likewise. So speaking with forestry, those are typically the 3 they go with, and those are what we'd be following.
Okay. Okay. Other thoughts, questions, comments? Councillor Busk.
So I'm familiar with the process, but when we have asphalt mills and stuff like that for repaving, what do they use for their heat sources and stuff like that when we've got major road projects going on in a fire ban area this year? Supposedly.
Gary, you want to take that one?
Well, I mean, just my experiences, I mean, they use propane and natural gas, but I think that's something that we'd have to factor into when making the ban order. I'm assuming.
So just something for your food for thought. That's something to think about. So
I have confidence you guys will work closely with them and figure it out. Councillor Ferguson.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yeah.
The council gives first reading to the fire ban bylaw number 16, 2020.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Councillor Busk.
make a motion that council gives second reading to the fire ban bylaw 16, 2020.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Brundle.
The council give unanimous consent to have third reading of the fire ban bylaw 16, 2020.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor King.
That council give third reading to the fire ban bylaw 16, 2020.
I'm guessing it should say third and final reading, correct? That's just how they're always worded. I'll leave it up to Gordon to deem it what appropriate, but I think we all know the intention is clear. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, guys. Okay, communication website survey results.
Okay, so before I start, I'm just going to share my screen so that way we can follow along. And for those 13 people following along on YouTube, they can see what we're seeing when we talk about the survey results.
There's always a magical number of 13, isn't it, or what?
14, sorry. I'll sign on to my computer, so it's 14 for you there, Tyler. Just want to make sure, can everyone see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes.
Okay. So in early February, I came to council to put out a survey around our website, as this is our 4th year of our current website. One of the perks of going with Civic Plus was we got a free redesign in the 4th year. To get resident input, we decided to put out a website survey. Council also asked if they could submit questions into the survey as well. So along with the mayor and some questions that we came up with the website committee, we released the survey. It ran for 4 weeks. 142 surveys were completed. We'll just go through them as quickly as possible. I will say right off the bat, all the comments that we did get are in the survey presentation that I have here. I left them verbatim, so they are as they were submitted to us. So if there's spelling mistakes, they were submitted as that. Okay. How often do you use the Town of Slave Lake website? 58% of the people who responded said that they use the website when they're looking for something. Okay, once or twice a week. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just going to chime in here for 1 sec. So when you do the screen share thing, I can no longer see all of council unless.
Yes, I realize that.
So all I'm going to say to council is if you've got something to say, just speak up. Don't raise a hand because I can't see half of you anyway. Okay. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. How often do you, so like I just said, they use it when they're looking for something or once or twice a week. When you were using the town website, what are you usually looking for? We gave a list, we supplied a list to residents to select all that apply. I organized them from least popular to popular. So the least popular things that they were looking for when they're using the website was to submit a community event or information on the regional landfill. As you see, 8.3% went for locations of parks, council agendas, road closures, Slave Lake vlogs, business information, town bylaws, and that 16.7% range was the utility notices, contact information for clubs and organizations, and online forums. When you're using the town website, these are the most popular ones. So as you see, the most popular thing that people are looking for are those public notices that are put out by planning and development. Second would at 66.7% was facility schedules and facility prices at 41.7 along with breaking news. So the breaking news is the news flash that is on their main page. It's the little icon that is shared to our Facebook page as well. If not listed above, what other things are you looking for on the town website? As we released this in February, of course, they would say snow removal forecast and Frostfest because it had just taken place prior to us releasing this survey. So people were looking for that and it was on top of their mind. If we released it today, I would assume most people will be looking for COVID-19 information. Can you find facility rates and rental rates on the Town of Slave Lake website? 58.3% said yes, where 41.7 said no. If I'm going too fast, please tell me and I'll slow down. So these are some of the comments that we got in from residents. How can we make the usage of the facility schedule more easy for you? Hard to find the schedules even when you type in the search or of track schedule. Having both an individual page as part of the website for the pool MRC plus a large encompassing PDF would be nice, which we currently do. Maybe move user rates earlier or add a page number for it to the front of the schedule and more details about what is happening at the MRC. It was there at first, but now only have the times when it's open and not what is actually taking place. So I asked Gary to stick around for this part of this presentation. We are actually, along with community services and myself, we are going to be relaunching the facility schedules into a quarterly facility schedule release, a community guide, sorry. But if Gary, you want to talk about what is going to be coming up for that, and I'll just stop sharing so that everyone can see Gary.
So our intent is to have the reoccurring things that are always reoccurring just posted on the website instead of being part of the facility guide. So right now you would have to download the facility guide as a PDF document, scroll through the document to find what you're looking for. And for example, the field house at the MRC, all the schedules for every day are included in that guide. Our intent would be to have a page that would say, for example, field house schedules typically on certain days, volleyball takes place at a certain date and time, adult soccer takes place, and so on. If it's those same things that are reoccurring all the time, and then the guide would be more focused on events, courses, classes, those kinds of things that happen over and above to the actual schedules, what we had envisioned.
Is there any questions on that before I continue on? Nope. So we will jump back here. Where do you find information about town programs? Select all that applies. So we gave people options of where they're finding the information about programs. Town of Slave Lake website was 58.3%, electronic signs and Facebook at 16.7%, call the MRC or pool or town office at 8.3%, and posters around town came in at 0%. So most people are looking online electronically when they're looking for programs and program information. Tell us how we can make it easier for you to find information on the town's website for town programs. I find Facebook especially annoying, as once I've found something, often a few weeks or a month before it's happening, I only look at the website for this type of information. Events on Facebook are not on the calendar of events. It would be nice if there was one central calendar for events and not just posted on Facebook. Keep it consistent. If you could keep it updated more often find out about programs in the Lakeside Leader after the fact. How often do you check the online community calendar found on the Town of Slave Lake website? When I'm looking for something to do, yet again, from that first question that we did ask, 50% said that when they're looking for something to do, they check that online community calendar. Monthly and once a week came at 25% each. Have you submitted an online calendar event to the Town of Slave Lake website? 70% said no, where 30% said yes. What type of events would you like to see more on the Town of Slave Lake website? Non-sports events for adults, Slave Lake Ice Dog schedule, Slave Lake Thunder schedule, baseball games at the sports field, Sinclair or Charity, Slave Lake Chamber of Commerce events, Rotary Club of Slave Lake programs. Love the library calendar. More groups having their own calendar would be great. And business events. And their example was the Dom's schedule. So I'm assuming people want to know when karaoke is at Dom's. Do you use the online fillable forms? 58.3% said yes, where 41.7% said no. Are you able to find the online fillable forms easily on the Town of Slave Lake website? Yes, 41% said yes, and 58% said no. So a reverse of who uses them. If there's a form that you were looking for that the town did not have as an online fillable form, permits and special event permits. So we do have those as PDFs. It is easier for the planning and development department to have them as PDFs. So we decided early on when we first launched our website to take them down. So it is something that we discussed, but right now it is just a PDF that people can submit their permits or their special event permits. Are you able to locate the new development permits on the Town of Slave Lake website? No, 41, yes, 41%, no, 58.3%. So it is something that we recently launched. So it is a little bit more of an education piece that we have to get to. And when we go through the redesign, it is something that we'll be making sure that's front and center. Can you find public hearings? They're located in the exact same location as the public notices. And again, 41 say yes, 58 say no. Would you use the Town of Slave Lake website more if you were able to check and pay for your utility bill? 12.7% said yes. Back in February, when we launched this survey, Tyler said that he was expecting it to be 88% saying yes, but people did not want to be able to check their utility bill online. What about property taxes? Would you want to be able to check your property taxes and pay for your property taxes online? 50-50 came in as a yes and no. And purchase and pay for a business license, 90% said no, 10% said yes. How would you currently rank the Town of Slave Lake's website? 41.7% said okay, needs improvement, 33.3%. So this is what we're looking for when we're going through that redesign phase. We are looking for feedback, and right now they're saying it's okay, but it could use improvement. So that is something that we do take in mind when we're going through that redesign process. How would you describe the navigation of the Town of Slave Lake website today? 50% said some navigation issues, and difficult to navigate came in at 41.7%. So it is something that we have to fix as well. Have you downloaded the My Slave Lake mobile app? No, 66.7%. Yes, 33.3%. This should say, does the app need improvement? Needs improvement said 43.3%. I've downloaded it, but since deleted it, 16.7%. How would you currently rank the flow of communications from the current council? I never hear from any of them, 50%. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just responding to the survey results here. Good, 25%, needs improvement, 16.7%, okay, 8.3%, and excellent, 0%. Do you feel council is open and approachable? Depending on the issue, 41.7%, no, 41.6%, yes, 16.7%. Do you currently watch any of the Slave Lake vlogs that are published on the Town of Slave Lake social website and social media pages? Yes, 66.7%, no, 33.3%. What topics would you like addressed on future episodes? The deterioration of roads in our area, businesses in Slave Lake, amount of staff at the town office, reducing the size of council, development process. I would like more councillors to take part. It would go a far way in regards to council communication. Relationship with MD, I'm assuming they mean the MD of Lesser Slave River. How has the tension settled since the agreement debacle a few years ago? Since we are 2 years into their term, what has this council accomplished, and how has each councillor advocated for their constituents? Fire services and Fire Smart, are we getting rid of it next year? So these are topics that people submitted, and yet again, these are all that were submitted. How would you rank the communications as a whole the Town of Slave Lake provides? Good, 33.3%, okay, 33.3%, needs improvement, 25%, so on and so forth. If there was one thing you would keep about the current Town of Slave Lake website, what would it be? As much as I've complained about the calendar, I think having it front and center is good. However, I think keeping it updated should be a bigger priority. Navigation bar on the left seems to work well. Job section is easy to understand. RCMP update more front and center. If there was one thing you could change about the Town of Slave Lake website, what would it be? The forms part of it needs some work for sure. Make it simpler to navigate. Took a bit to realize there was a second navigation bar at the top, maybe slimmed down to one. It's a tough one. Upcoming events should have their own space, not just regulated to the facility schedule, which the icon looks like a calendar, but is set up as a large PDF. Stop posting on Facebook. Not everyone has it. I'm sick and tired of going back and forth, and keep the website updated with more MRC information. I will look for details on the MRC and then show up and find out it's closed for some reason. Are we trying to communicate with residents in advance and not last minute? Additional feedback. I won't go through all of them, but I'll just pick out some highlights here because I'm assuming you've had a chance to read through these. Every time I go to the Town of Slave Lake website, oh, pardon me.
I was going to say the other thing with this, Chris, because there's 3 pages of one-offs there that I don't know if we need to read all those, but if you got a couple that you want to highlight, go for it.
Not really. They are in the package. You can look through them. So they are here. So if you want, you can have that chance to look through them, but I don't need to go through them like you said.
Perfect. Okay, so we've got some feedback here on a survey that we put out. And obviously it's been a while since we've had a look at this. This was supposed to come out, and then we got all the COVID stuff going on. Behind the scenes, part of the reason that we did this is that we are working on doing some stuff with the website. So Chris, you want to give some updates on what we're doing, why we're doing, who's involved, and some timelines?
Okay, so I would say about a month ago, probably a month ago this week, a website committee met, and that it consists of Councillor McGregor, Mayor Warman, myself, and representatives of administration from each department. Tasha Albert, the community manager, community outreach manager. Sorry, I forget her title. Samantha Dick, the planning development officer, and then also we do have Kirsten Coots, the human resources director. And we all meet, we've met twice so far, once with the councillors. And what the plan is, and I've spoken to Civic Plus about this, is to have a new website launched, hopefully by the end of the summer. With COVID going on right now, that date seems to be pushing back because everything else is being stopped. But they are working, they are starting the process of the first initial conversations that we've had with our committee. They've gone back and they've started the process of actually designing a small wired frame version of a new website for us with recommendations that the committee gave. I will be meeting with our Civic Plus representative hopefully in the next week or 2 weeks, depending on her schedule. And then we will be bringing that wired frame plus navigation of how it's going to be laid out with the committee, hopefully by the end of this month, beginning of next.
Okay, and so I will say that, another piece that needs to go out there, this is part of our contract with our current website provider, that this comes at no additional cost to us to basically give the website a new look and a refresh and make it a little more user friendly. And so that's why we're getting some feedback from our administration, from council, and from our residents there on how to make that better. So as one that is passionate about communication, I'm excited to see this happening. It's interesting from our feedback in the survey, there's a mixed bag on whether or not we're actually succeeding in that. But we'll continue on that journey, I guess. Questions, comments from council? Councillor McGregor.
So just going through the notes from our meeting that we had to do this, and we had talked about some nonprofits as well being able to have their stuff linked or have a link that will go back to them. Also having the calendar done for a long period of time. So if you were looking and you knew you were coming for a fishing tournament in the summer and you were bringing your family, things that you could plan to do already, or if you were in the winter. We also talked about just kind of colors and how the colors work or don't work, and having it bold or the more like, just lost my wording there. The one in the middle, like what can we do, or latest news, more in the middle and quick and bold. So I like that. And Christina is helping us, not Kirsten. Christina. Yeah.
Kirsten is helping. She wasn't able to make her last meeting, but Christina Ridley is as well. And I forgot her. I do apologize. And Christina Ridley is the accounting supervisor. Just on that note about the calendar, Councillor McGregor, I did have a chance to talk to our website provider and our account manager, and she said that we are able to iframe our calendar into any other website that wants it. So if any other nonprofit organizations, if Community Futures, if the Chamber of Commerce wants to take our website and put it on their website, it is able to be done. It would just have to be done through iframe, which is easy to set up, and any web technician would be able to help out. She gave me a crash course in it. So if we do get to that point, I can help nonprofit organizations or other organizations set it up as well.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic. Thanks for that. Perfect. That's all for me.
Any other questions, comments from council? If I see none, Councillor Busk. Just a motion to
make a motion that council accepts the survey results as information.
Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Chris. Okay, so we'll jump into committee minutes. So usually we give a verbal update on what's going on with a lot of our committees. Realistically, this should go fairly short because a lot of them aren't meeting, but I know that some are, so there will be a few updates. Intermunicipal hasn't met. Watershed, I believe, has.
We meet Thursday.
Chamber of Commerce hasn't met. Housing, anything new, Julie?
Meet next week.
Health, you guys had a meeting, didn't you, Joy?
So we have our tri-council meeting on Thursday, but I've had quite a few HAC, Health Advisory Committee meetings for the region. So we just had one last night and a couple more during the week. So I'll just kind of give you an update sort of where we are with that. We were asked to help as Health Advisory Council chairs in some COVID-19 visitor guidance with new visitor information that's going back into acute care and the long-term care. So they asked us for some input and things and questions to take back. My only one that I had in there was to include culture. So all cultures, as different cultures have different things that happen when someone passes away, different funeral arrangements, different family things. I just wanted them to have something in there that would encompass all cultures and just being respectful of that in this time. So they were taking that one back. So that was good to see. We also watched Greg's. Oh, you know, I feel like I'm always organized, and then I feel like when it comes to this, I lose one piece of paper, and under my breath, I'd normally say swear words. And now that we're live, I'm really having to rein it in today.
You can use the mute button, Councillor McGregor, and sort out some stuff if you'd like.
Never mind, Mayor Warman. I think I got this. Thanks, though, for your help. Okay, let me see. I want to make sure I have the exact right words. Okay, anyways, I'll come back to that one. This one was our Health Advisory Committee meeting last night. So we're going to be doing a couple of things in the community. One would be in November and the next one will be in April. So we're just working on how that will look. Of course, we'll have a plan A and plan B, as will it be an in-person or will it be more webinars, but we're going to work on some webinar stuff with population and addictions and mental health. They're getting ready to launch some online stuff to be able to watch, just to check in, to have some advice for people, even to be able to get in and you know, talk to a psychologist and things, because in this time, we're finding more and more of that. We also are concerned as a council what it will look like for kids going back to school in our region. So our region runs from High Prairie, all the community settlements, everything in between, Slave Lake, and then all the way to Wabasca. So that's the area we cover. So we are concerned about what it will look like for kids going back to school that have had mental health supports through the school or through resources outside of the school, and now how different that has been for them and what it's going to look like going into school and how much addition we're going to have to do, where the resources are from the school, where the resources are from AHS. So, you know, we're kind of worried about that. It is Rural Health Week, and that falls May 25th. May 25th to the 29th. Yeah, May 25th to the 29th. So that's Rural Health Week. So as a community, if you're looking for something to do, I know you still can't bring food, and we still can't have mass gatherings, and we still can't have a big barbecue, and we still can't bring them bottles of wine for working at the hospital and in those crazy situations. But maybe you could decorate your windows. Maybe you could say a little thank you on some kind of social media. you know, maybe we could use our town signs just to thank those people that have been working in the health profession through this, and will continue to work in the health profession throughout all of this and going forward with all of the unknowns. We are still, we have our last doctor that is signed. We're just waiting for her to come. We're still looking at that summer or September to be here, and then we'll be at a full complement of 9 doctors. Our nurse practitioners are a little low, but as we've discussed before, pay scale and different things like that for nurse practitioners has kind of changed. And so, but to have 9 doctors for us and keep us at that level is working well. So I think that's it. Greg's Wings is the video. And so I'll share some information with you guys, and through, it's about a half an hour video, and then the dad and the sister do some question and answer after, and it's just about the healthcare system and how things fall through the cracks, going to different doctors, having different nurses, being in a different community, and how we really need to have healthcare available and your records available, so that when someone clicks on there, they've known how many times you've been there, what you've been there for, instead of not knowing. So it's really good. I'll share some information from the community engagement committee. They're going to plan another viewing. It's about a half an hour, and then some questions and answers. So again, if you're looking for health information, or you have a solution or maybe a suggestion that you'd like to see in our region, feel free to reach out to me. I'm not hard to find, and I'd be glad to help or listen and pass on anything I can up the line for AHS.
Okay, any questions? Tourism, I think you guys are on hold.
Yeah, it's a difficult committee. Even before COVID happened, we were struggling with attendance and involvement. And of course, we don't have an admin besides a minute taker. So kind of struggling with that one. And I was kind of looking forward to when we got our economic development person going and asking them for some direction.
Perfect. Naming advisory, I don't think you guys have done anything, Sean. No,
nothing.
Community futures, Rebecca.
You forgot about me in the library.
Oh, I didn't do that on purpose. Right, to give us library.
Sorry, Rebecca, I'm butting back to the library one. So the library, I'm happy, or I'm sad to say that the magic of gathering is not able to be done online in Slave Lake, because they have a magic of the gathering for like the province or everywhere. But that group is really excited to get back to their in-person in the library. Not many of them, just a few have joined for the province. The rest are waiting for the library to open up. So they're still doing online stories. They're still reading online stories. They're putting some crafts. We're now offering some curbside pickup. So you'll be able to phone the library. They have a whole procedure in place where you'll put it in a bag. They'll be doing some deliveries in town, and then the MD region can come and they'll have it at the back door waiting. So they have a really good procedure, but we just found that a few people don't use audiobooks, they don't use any kind of social media, and they just wanted a good old-fashioned book. So we have a good procedure in place, and so that will be wonderful for them to do. They have another wine and paint night coming up, and a trivia night also that they're doing through Zoom and that for the library. So they seem to be keeping themselves busy. Our archive girl is very busy because of course all her stuff is in the library. So she's still in there, a couple days of work cataloging things and getting stuff done. So they seem to be keeping themselves busy, and I think we're in phase 2. So who knows when that will be, but we will just wait and kind of get some guidance from the province. And we're still meeting through Zoom, and it's working very well.
Okay, any questions? Okay, Councillor King, Community Futures.
So we just had a meeting last week. All our services are still accessible, just remotely. You can contact them through phone or email. Any major events obviously have been canceled or put on hold. We're working with collaboration with the Chamber on a business COVID recovery project. And I just saw something come through from Joy today. So I'm guessing that just came out. That's all the information I had on it. If Joy had anything else to add, or if we're...
So I did send an email out to you guys. We have a one pager for the COVID recovery project. So we're looking for people to, give some webinar talks, talk about, certain things, mental health, business planning, innovation, online marketing, legal, HR, cash flow, insurance, all those things that are business related that are going to look different moving forward. So I sent the one pager out. You guys were on my list, and a few and other people have taken the list. So if you have anybody else that you think would be able to help us, or if you guys have anything that you have done or are looking to do, please share it with us, and then we'll post it all. We're just getting the website finished up for Community Futures there, and then it'll be able to be posted and used. And because this is a stage relaunch, it will be like a work in progress, but we're working with other communities around the area and other chambers and Community Futures. So I think it'll be a good project if we can get some people to help us and help the rest of the business community.
Okay.
So that's that project being spearheaded. Our loans are down at the moment. However, there was talk from the federal government about funding coming through Community Futures for small businesses. Up until this point, all the Community Futures offices still haven't heard anything from the government about this money or how it's going to come about. But the announcement was Community Futures was going to disperse this money. And like everything, the words are quicker than the plan. So we haven't heard anything as of that yet, but it will be on the website if money does come through for small businesses.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, CEC, nothing, Joy, right?
Nothing, no.
MPC.
So we had a meeting on May 4th. It was a brief meeting. We approved the food production facility, which is at the flip side for the microgreens. And there was a stockpile of logs that ended up on Caribou Trail. So we approved a temporary stockpile until May 31st. And they had also noted their intention that they would like to sell firewood, but it's not contemplated to produce firewood in the land use bylaw. So hopefully they'll be putting an application forward for that in the near future. And that sums up the MPC.
Okay, questions on that? I've had lots of questions about that log deck, and so I reached out to Lori. She gave me some information. A lot of the concerns obviously are around the fire smarting and protection around our community, but as it is temporary and leaving at the end of the month, that should alleviate some of those bits of anxiety. As there's nothing else, SDAB didn't have anything. Waste hasn't had anything.
So I'll touch base. So I did reach out here and I heard back on April 15th. So, the landfill remains open with reduced operations and services. Staffing kind of continues to be an issue. And I did reach out again here for another update, and hopefully we can have a meeting in the near future.
Okay. Airport, you guys have had some discussions.
Yes, we met yesterday and talked about, finalized our auditor's report and stuff like that. All was good. Finalized the numbers from 2019. Looked at the year-to-date numbers. Everything is looking all right. There is a new lease coming out from the province. They signed 5-year leases, I believe it is. and that one's gonna have to be done here before the end of the year for the next term.
That's for
So,
the forestry base?
sorry?
That's for the forestry base?
Yes,
Okay.
and that is about it for the airport.
Yeah, just to add to that, so we had a pretty good year there. You know, the revenue was quite a bit higher, so we ended up with an unrestricted surplus of about 84,000 this year at the airport. So,
And what'd you guys do with that? Put it in reserves for right now?
yeah, we put it towards reserves because there's a runway sweeper that is going to be purchased, so it'll be going towards that.
Yeah, 70,000 of that, and then the remaining 13,699 went to capital, I believe.
Okay.
Sounds right.
Okay. Nothing going on in Legacy. The building's closed there, and we're kind of following the kind of the town schedule with their facilities as well. So we'll see that where that ends up. Obviously, the big discussion or the big issue is going to be revenue. You know, there's no revenue coming in, but of course, there's still expenses to be paid. And so, you know, we're working with a daycare to see what that will look like in the future. You know, luckily this time of year, we actually slow down a bit on events. So it doesn't have as much impact, but the daycare one's a big one. So we'll be working with the Child Care Society here in the future when they get some ideas of what kind of support they're getting, to see how we're going to deal with some expense issues there. Protective services, I don't think you guys met. You had one.
We met on April 22nd. Like I say, it was a Zoom meeting. We went through the forestries update or environments updates, hospital updates. Everybody's trying to figure out their processes with the COVID and the spacing requirements and all that stuff. So it's going to be a little tougher on the forestry crews this year for sure. And then it was just basic reports from the rest of the services.
Any questions? If not,
I don't have a question, but I forgot to add something to my report after it was already 27 minutes long. I know you guys want to hear me talk again. Listen, it was about rural AHS sites that moved to lab-only collections. So because we are only one of 3 FCCs, and we are in the hospital for that reason, that you go and can get your lab work done right away. Now you have to phone this 1-800 number to book out an appointment. And so it's causing some problems for us, maybe not other areas, but because we're at the hospital and would like to just walk down or phone the front to our own hospital and speak to our own people, I've asked them to take a look back at this for our FCC, because we're only one of 3. I've asked the people in charge here to have another look at this, and maybe we can make some different arrangements for our FCC compared to other models of clinics where it's easier for them to do that than it is for us. And it's called Falling Through the Cracks, Greg's story. So I'll get back to you with more information on that.
I feel like there's always an update. Every time you talk, there's a little bit more of Greg's story that comes out. So I'll be excited to see what happens.
Oh.
Anyways, on a more serious note, if there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to accept the committee verbal reports as information. Thank you, Councillor King. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Management task list is provided in page 64 of our package. Lots of stuff ongoing with no date of when exactly it's going to be completed, which obviously is the world of COVID partly. Is there any questions on any of the items in the management task list as it is right now? If not, motion to accept the management task list as information. Thank you, Councillor Brandel. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Correspondence. We got one from CN in regards to they're doing some work in the right of ways. I actually saw them doing this last week, and that's why you would have seen these weird looking police vehicles. That's the CN police there that were there on site while their workers were doing some work. Great to see them maintaining their right of ways, because obviously that can cause us issues. And then the last one is one that we got from the Minister of Active Trade and Tourism promoting their app. And so they've got this app called Alberta Trace Together. They want you to download it, and basically the idea around it is they want to know where you are and where you've been. But the idea with it is that, if there was an infection, they have all the data, basically the data points to say, okay, you've been in contact with so-and-so, and mass send that out, and help reduce that spread of COVID. My own thought of the mix thing, that they know exactly where I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing. On the other side, I realized that my life is not that interesting, that who really cares? So I did use the app, and they can track me and do whatever the hell they want, and we'll see what happens. But I encourage residents to feel comfortable enough to use that app. If it can limit my chances of going to be isolated for 14 days, I think it's worth it right now. So with that, we will, Mayor's Corner. What's going on, Mayor's Corner? Obviously, start off a big shout out to all of our nurses. It's Nurses Week this week. And so, all of our frontline staff with AHS have been busting their butts, both in our communities. I know that some of our our local HF staff has been seconded to go help out other facilities that have been struggling. And just want to say thanks to all of those people for all the hard work that they're doing in these extremely stressful and lots of anxiety type situations. Lots of comments from people. This is usually the time of year actually I get the most questions and comments, but there has been a lot, whether it's landscaping, fire bans, sidewalk, street sweeping, business openings, and 811 questions. Sometimes I think must be still a long wait to get into 811, because they just phone the mayor and say, what should I do? Which is always interesting. But keep them coming. That's part of what I guess I'm here for. The other big thing, obviously, it's a big week. It's a big week. We have this loose target that the province says May 14th, phase 1, we're going to open up some doors. That level of anxiety is different in different people. And so respecting that we're going to have people at either side of the spectrum there who think it's a great idea and we shouldn't have been closed this long, and others that say, man, this is way too soon. And so as a community, I said this last week, I'll reiterate it again to our business community, please, please, please take all these preventative measures seriously, and invest the time into your staff and the PPE required to do everything safely. Limiting our numbers will help keep our doors open and keep the economy moving forward to get people back to work, which we're all excited to do. And to those businesses, to other customers who are out interacting with people, there is definitely, especially with the weather being the way it is, you can see a relaxing in the social distancing of what's going on in Slave Lake. Whether that's the weather, whether that's I'm fed up, whether I'm ready to move on, whether the province is saying that, or whether our numbers just don't have people scared enough. I can encourage everyone to remain cautious, to take it seriously. I think the worst possible outcome would be that we take a step backwards. So bear in mind too, to businesses, I also say, don't pressure yourselves. You need to reopen when the time is right, when you have the equipment, when you have the staff, when you have the procedures in place. First off, this was an unofficial date that they've given of the 14th of May. As of today, they still haven't made that date official. They just keep saying that that's a targeted date. That is 2 days away. So hopefully they make it official at some point. But I can tell you, even in the world of Boston Pizza, I will not be open this week. I will not be open this weekend. I will probably not be open next week. We are working internally on our plans that come from Alberta Health Services guidelines. We flow those out with our franchise guidelines, and then we actually look internally there. We had a 2 or 3 hour meeting last week with my whole team just to say, okay, how can we actually do this and protect our staff, protect our customers, and now just trying to source all the necessary products and PPE and things that I need, and then time to educate my staff on what we'll be doing, because it's going to be a different world. And so As much as my bank account says, holy geez, Tyler, get the doors open. My mind says we got to do this right. So I encourage businesses, take the time that you need to do it right, because it's hard to adapt on the fly and it's hard to go backwards. So do it at your own pace. Do what makes sense. Mayor thought of the day. Other than that, so we got some in-camera stuff to go over. One of the questions or one of the comments in our communication thing was, your in-camera stuff, how come it's so secretive? What are you guys talking about? Largely just how much to raise taxes, how big a raise we're going to give ourselves, all that kind of good stuff. And not really. No, really what we talk about is things to do with legal that are going on, discussions we're having with our lawyers, could be issues with HR. We're talking about people that are working for the town, things that are going on. We're in the middle of CAO recruitment right now. So those discussions we obviously don't have over a Zoom meeting. And so that's kind of the stuff that we concentrate on. So some sensitive stuff, not really big secret stuff. And if you really want to know, in 2021, we have an election. Feel free to run and you can get all the world's secrets. And that's where all the magic happens. So with that, I would entertain a motion to go in camera. Thank you, Councillor Gramlich. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. So we have a separate link for our in-camera Zoom meeting. So we'll